Welcome back. Till this point, we saw what are the speciality or what are the special features of commodities, right? So how it is different from the stocks and why the forward pricing is impacted because of these special features. Now we will discuss the actual forward pricing for the commodities, like how to price the commodity in forward pricing. Now, if you recall the previous discussion where we talked about the forward pricing for the stocks, in that chapter, I gave you the fundamental principle. The principle was very simple. The principle was forward price is equal to spot price, which is S0, plus all the expenses incurred by the commodity owner or the stock owner, less all the incomes earned by the commodity owner or the stocks owner. Even in the previous chapter, I used the word commodity because commodity gives you the feel of understanding. Okay. Now see here. This is our timeline. Time t0 and time t1. We are standing at time t0, and say you are long on forward, and say underlying is the gold. Right now, if say today gold is trading at $100, what will be the price at time t1? So what is the rule here? For this particular time period, I will add, and yeah, one more thing, I am the holder of this gold. I have the gold and you want to long the gold. Okay, and today the price is $100. So I will add all the expenses which I will incur on behalf of you because of holding this particular commodity. So I will add all the expenses and I will reduce all the incomes which I will generate or produce by holding this particular commodity. Okay. Now see here. What are the expenses for the commodities? In stocks, we saw expense as your interest rate, which I will lose because you are not purchasing it from me right now. Okay. So if you buy this gold right now at this point spot, so I will earn interest on the gold. So that interest is lost because you are not buying it right now. So I will add the interest. Then in commodity, we have one more extra expense, which is the storage cost, which was not applicable for the shares. And then we have some incomes here. So income is lease, and one more income is convenience yield. Okay. So primarily we have to discuss these four factors. I will discuss every factor in detail. I will give you all the possible variations of this particular these expenses, which is not discussed in the book, and this is a very big problem because GAP will test the variations, and in your book there is only one possibility given. Okay, so you will understand what is the meaning of this. So let's first start with the interest rate. So what is this interest? So imagine scenario, you buy gold from me today. So I will get $100 at time t0, right? And then say the interest rate is 10% and this is 1 year and this is time t1. So for this 1 year, I will earn 10%, which is equivalent to $10, right? So because you are not buying gold from me today, but we are entering into the forward contract that you will buy the gold at the end of the 1 year. First thing I will charge you is the interest rate which I will lose by not selling you or by not receiving the cash immediately at time t0. Okay, so first expense is this $10, and now see what are the variations. We'll start with the formula, the fundamental, the basic formula which is given in the book. So formula is forward rate is equal to ft at time t is equal to s0 spot price into 1 plus r to the power t. Okay, now see, our spot is 100, gold is trading at 100 today. You can take any unit, you can take 100 grams of gold or whatever is your preferred unit. So $100 is spot price for the gold, and 10% is the interest. So 0.10 and time period is 1 year. So answer is 110. Okay, so this will be the forward price. Assuming the only cost which I am incurring right now is the loss of interest, the interest expense. So here forward price should be $110. So we will enter into a contract of you will long forward on gold. You will long forward the gold at $110, and I will hold the position which is short forward gold of $110. Right? It's a very clear scenario, like nothing confusing here. Okay, so the maths is very basic. That is, I am simply adding the interest rate. We have the decent formula to add this interest. The formula is 1 plus r to the power t. What if I'm say like we are entering into a contract, forward contract, which has the time period or the expiration of only 6 months. After 6 months, then this t will become 0.5 and everything will be same. Okay. Now in this interest rate, as per the GAP or the illustrations which are given in the GAP, assumes that this rate R is effective for that period. Okay, so if it is like say 10%, then 10% for whole year, and that is I will earn directly 10% on $100. But there is one more possibility. Till 2019, GAP preferred asking questions like this using the continuous compounding rate. So same R, in both the cases we will take 10% only, 10% only. But the difference is the effective rate and the continuously compounded rate. Now, what to take in the exam? If in exam nothing is mentioned, you will go with the effective rate. You will never assume continuously compounded rate. Please remember this. But by mistake, if you take continuously compounded rate, uh, the chances are, it is not a very certain thing, but the chances are you will be able to take the right answer, because you will see slight deviation with like in between difference when we take the difference of effective rate and the continuously compounded rate. You will have slight difference, slight as in not very minute in decimals. It will be a big difference, but you will be able to take right answer in normal scenario. But still, you should make sure that you are using the right rate. Okay, effective if nothing is mentioned, and continuously compounded if specifically mentioned. In majority of the cases, GAP prefers to mention what type of rate it is. Like say for effective, they will write effective rate. For semi-annual, they write semi-annual rate. For annual rate, they will write annual, and sorry, for continuously compounded, they will write continuously compounded rate. Okay, so this is your effective rate and continuously compounded rate. Now, how to use effective rate and continuously compounded rate in a formula? So, answer is very simple. Forward rate is equal to, for the effective rate, see the formula, S0 multiplied by 1 plus R to the power T. This is for the effective rates. If the rate is in the continuously compounded rate, then you will go with the F is equal to S0 into e to the power R and T. Okay. In case of effective rate, calculations will be easy. In case of in case of the continuously compounded rate, calculations will be easy. In case of effective rate, calculations will be slightly lengthy, not difficult. Okay, so let's see here. We will assume the same example, that is S0 is equal to 100 multiplied by 1 plus R to the power T. In our case, we have 10% as a rate to the power 1. Okay, so let's take the rate 1.10 y to the power 1 multiplied by 100. Answer is 110. So F is equal to 110 when the interest rate is effective. Now what if the interest rate is continuously compounded rate? Then in this case you have to take 100 multiplied by e to the power r multiplied by t. T is 1 year. So 1.10 multiplied by 1, you don't need to multiply it by 1, and then have to simply take second exponential and then multiply it by 100. So your answer is f is equal to 110.5. So see, there is difference definitely, but difference is not like you are getting 110 in one case and 120 in another case. Okay, just by slight deviation of interest rate. Okay, so this is the first thing you must remember. And then what if the time period is 2 years? If t is equal to 2 years, then your formula will be simply 100 1 plus 0.10 to the power 2, and in case of effective, your formula will be, formula as in the values will go like e to the power 0.10 multiplied by 2. That's it, and you can do the maths. So this is about the interest rate. So we learned the first thing here. The first thing is forward rate is equal to spot plus interest rate. Now there are two possibilities, 1 plus r to the power t for effective, and then s0 into e to the power rt if the interest rate is continuously compounded. That's it. So this is the end of discussion. So you learn how to accommodate the interest rate and why this interest rate is I'm charging the interest rate to you because I will lose interest on this period. Very simple. Next is the storage cost. Again, we will take the timeline. This is your timeline, and storage cost is that factor because of which like many students commit mistake in this area. Okay, and GAP knows this, and GAP will test all the possible variations of storage cost, and here I have to show you what are the possible variations. Now again, this is 1 year, this is time t0, this is time t1, spot price is $100, interest rate r is equal to again 10% effective for now, and then the storage cost. Okay, I will mention storage cost here because I have to show you the variation. Now first variation of for the storage cost is either it can be paid at time t0, paid at time t0, or tx as in between, say after 6 months. So you have to pay storage cost after 6 months. Okay, this is second possible variation, and the last variation is at the end you have to pay storage cost at time t1. Let's take the storage cost of $10, I guess. Let me check my illustration. Okay, $10. So this is your storage cost. Now let's start with the first possibility, that is paid in the start. In the start as in at the inception of the contract or at time t0. So what do we need to do here? So again, for the forward rate calculation, our formula is the same, S0 multiplied by 1 plus R to the power T, and now you have to add the storage cost. But remember, we are paying storage cost at this point. At this point, right? Meaning, if I pay storage cost at time t0, by paying this, I will lose interest on storage cost. So at time t0, the storage cost is $10, but at time t1, storage cost will be storage cost, which is denoted by u. Storage cost is denoted by u plus interest rate on storage cost amount, which is $10 is storage cost, and then plus loss of interest, which is 10% on $10. Okay, so how to do this calculation? Calculation is very simple. U multiplied by 1 plus r to the power t. Same effect. So I'm losing this particular interest on the underlying price S0 that I will charge using this formula 1 plus r to the power t. And again, because storage cost I need to pay immediately today, I will also add interest impact. But you see, if you see properly, like here your interest rate is the same, the impact of the interest rate is the same, this and this. So we can change this formula into a slightly better looking formula. F is equal to S0 plus u multiplied by 1 plus r to the power t. So 1 plus r common, f S0 plus u is in the bracket. That's it, very simple. So now I'll put the values. I know you are smart enough to do the calculation. Okay, so 100 plus 10 and then 1 plus 0.10 to the power t, which is 1. Okay, so do the calculation, solve the answer. You will get answer is 121. Very simple. Then what if it is in the end? Storage cost paid in the end. Here things are very simple, but remember, here students commit mistake because majority of the illustrations are like storage cost paid in the beginning, and then some students don't focus on this detail that when the storage cost is paid, and then they commit mistake. So don't commit this particular mistake. If the storage cost is paid in the end, that is at the time of settlement of contract, what is happening here? This is your again time t0, this is time t1, today's spot price is $100 and you are paying storage cost in the end. So I'm losing interest rate on underlying price S0 for this period, and I'm not losing any interest rate on storage cost because I have to pay storage cost in the end at time t1 when the contract will be settled. That's why in this scenario, you have to simply take f is equal to S0 multiplied by 1 plus r to the power t plus storage cost. So there is no impact. Remember this, no time value impact. Okay, so if it is paid in the end, simply take u. Again, the same information, same calculation. S0 is 100, 1 plus 0.10 to the power t, that is 1, and then u is 10. And let's perform the mathematics, like solve the answer. I guess it is 120, right? Now last point and a very important one, paid in the mid, in between. Instead of mid, we'll say in between. Start and end of contract. And here things will get little bit complicated. Not very much complicated. Like if you understand the time value of money, the things will be very easy for you and understandable for you. But if you have slight confusion in the time value of money, then it will be a problematic thing. Okay, now see here. This is your time t0, same time t1, $100, and then you have to calculate the forward contract. And I'm taking this particular timeline is of 1 year, and after 6 months, you have to pay you at 6 months, end of 6 months, you have to pay $10. Now this is the scenario. To solve this calculation, to solve this forward pricing question, you need two interest rates now. First interest rate is for 1 year, or 1 year, that is what is the interest rate for 1 year, and then you will need one more interest rate, which is interest rate for 6 months, which is like this. Okay, so GAP will mention the rates like So 6m interest rate, 6m rate is equal to say 10%, and sorry, 6m rate is 9%, and 1 year rate is 10%, which seem like our previous example. Now, how to solve this equation or calculation? Now, there are two possibilities, two possible options for you. First is the longer route, that is, you can simply calculate the forward rate, from Tx or T6m, or the better is T.5, T.5 to T1. For this T.5 to T1, we need two rates, right? R2, R1. So we have R1, then R2, and then you can simply calculate the forward rate, of interest rate, okay, interest forward rate, using your formula R2 T2 minus R1 T1 divided by T2 minus T1, and then multiply or take your value of storage cost or cost you paid for the storage to T1, and then simply add in your this result. Okay, so this is how it will look. So if you go by this methodology, which is the longer route, forward rate is equal to S0 multiplied by 1 plus R to the power T plus U forward adjusted. And how we will do this adjustment? You will calculate R forward, and this adjustment is done using U multiplied by 1 plus R forward to the power T. In our case, time will be 0.5. This is taking cost forward and then directly adding it in your calculation. So this is your basic calculation, and then you simply add storage cost if you go by the forward rate. But my recommendation is don't go by this method, because here you have to calculate storage cost, you have to calculate the forward rate first, and then you can do the calculation, which is not recommended to save the time. My recommendation is discount your storage cost to time t0 and then take it forward. So what is this next possibility which is recommended? Discount it and you will get the answer. So how to do the discounting? So storage cost UPV, that is storage cost present value, because you are paying after 6 months, we have to calculate the present value of the storage cost. Just a second. Okay, so you have to pay the we will pay the storage cost. I will pay the storage cost after 6 months. So I will discount storage cost by 6 months. Okay, and I will calculate the storage cost at time t0. So how to calculate? How do this calculation? Calculation is very simple. UPV is equal to 10 divided by, simply divided with 1 plus 0.9 to the power 0.5. Okay. Now there is one catch here. If you want to go with this formula, if you want to apply this, these rates must be mentioned in semi-annual rate. Okay, if this is mentioned as a semi-annual rate, then this is applicable. But because your answer will not change substantially because of these adjustment, generally GAP don't give you like this high interest rate. Like I use 10% because it is easy for the calculation. GAP generally prefers interest rate like 5% and so on. So your answer will not deviate that much, but prefer taking the right calculation, prefer doing the right calculation. So it totally depends upon how the interest rates are given. For now, I'm not considering all these like semi-annual and annual compounding impacts. I will directly go with the solution. Okay, so I will take 0.5, assuming this is effective rate and I will use this formula. If you use this, you will get the answer 9.57, that is UPV. And then for the forward rate calculation, simply go with the formula S0 plus UPV, because what we did here, we simply pulled this U to this point and we made the calculation for UPV. Okay, so S0 and UPV both are at time t0. That's why we can add S0 and UPV, and then your calculation 1 plus R to the power t. Okay, now this struggle is only applicable, struggle as in actually you cannot take 0.5 like this. Okay, this is a bit wrong methodology. You can do this only and only if this rate is mentioned in semi-annual. Okay, and one more thing, if this is mentioned in semi-annual, then this will also be mentioned in semi-annual rate, right? So both are in semi-annual rate. So if this is mentioned in the semi-annual rate, which is this particular rate, my this calculation is proper, no problem with this. Yeah, still there is problem with this, but okay, so no problem with this. Here I have to change the calculation. What I will do, assuming both the rates are mentioned in the semi-annual, I know if you are able to know like why this is slightly deviated because of the adjustment, I already know, don't worry about it. I will explain the same point here in this calculation. So see, the formula is forward rate is equal to S0. S0 is 100 plus UPV. What is your UPV? 9.57 multiplied by 1 plus R. And now because the R is mentioned in the semi-annual rate, you have to take 0.05, 1 plus 0.05 to the power T. T is now 2. Okay? Why 2? Because we have two semi-annual period. That's why to the power 2. And let's do the calculation now. So 1.05 y to the power x 2 multiplied by bracket 100 plus 9.57 bracket complete is equal to, answer is 120.80. F is equal to 120.80. Now see here, in case you don't use the semi-annual and you directly go with the 0.10 and 1, let's see what is the answer here using annual effective rate. So this will be 100 plus 1.97. So 100, 109.57, 109.57 multiplied by 1.10. So in this case, your answer is 120.527. Okay. Okay. And what is the right way of doing the calculation here if this is semi-annual? Right way is UPV is equal to 10 divided by 1 plus, remember, 0.045. Why? Because we are dividing it by 2 because the semi-annual rate, and then you have to take instead of 0.5 1. Why? Because this is one semi-annual period for discounting of storage cost. Very simple. Now let's check the answer here. 1.045 1 by x multiplied by 10. Answer is 9.57. Actually, the answer is 9.569. So see here, very slight deviation. That's why I went with the direct calculation instead of dividing it and using this calculation. Okay, so you will get approximate results, but if you want to go for the accuracy, my recommendation is please focus on all these details. These details matters. Okay, but if you don't have time, so instead of going for this type of accuracy, prefer normal calculation. Okay, now next, what if the same rates are given in the continuously compounded rate? Continuously compounded rate. So if the rates are in the continuously compounded, things will be very simple. Then you don't have to worry about the semi-annual or annual and so on. We will simply go with the first discounting UPV, and we are assuming 9% CC, continuously compounded rate. Okay, for 6 months. So here your answer will be 10 multiplied by e to the power RT. R is 0.09 and T is, I guess I took point here. This is 0.09, not zero point 0.9, 0.09. Okay. Now here e to the power 0.09 multiplied by 0.5, but this is discounting, so you have to put negative. Always remember. Or second option is simply divided by e to the power RT, that is 0.09 multiplied by 0.5. Okay. So both will give you the same result, don't worry about it. So this is the one method of doing calculation if the continuously compounded rate is given. Now here you don't have to worry about anything, that is the annual and semi-annual. Now for the forward rate calculation, you will get UPV. UPV is 0.09 multiplied by 0.5 plus minus second exponential multiplied by 10. Answer is 100 plus 9.56 e to the power RT, 0.10 multiplied by time period T, 1, and your answer is 100 plus 9.56, then store it in the memory 1.10 second exponential multiplied by recall 1. Answer is F is equal to 121.08. This is the answer. Very simple. Okay, so we saw all the possible variations. So what are the variations for the storage cost? First variation is when it is paid. It is paid in the start, mid or end. So these are the three variations. Then how it is paid. That is how the interest rate is mentioned. Interest rate is mentioned in like continuously compounded or effective rate. Now one more variation is possible, not generally tested by the GAP, but it is possible. That is the rate mentioned in uh, percentage form, u in percentage form. So if the rate is mentioned in the percentage form, then you don't have to like worry about anything. Things will be very simple. So s multiplied by, simply add 1 plus r plus u, like this, right? So s multiplied by 1 plus our interest rate is 0.10 plus assume storage cost is 2%. Okay, simply 2% on the underlying price. Is it possible? Yeah, it is possible. GAP might ask you like this. So simply add here. Okay, and then do this calculation. And if this is in the continuously compounded rate, again I'm giving you the additional variations like the rarest possibility also. So this will become r plus u into t. Here also you have t. Okay, this is one more possibility, but focus on the possibilities which I gave you till here, till this point. Then we have the lease rate. So what is lease rate? Lease rate is, see, I have gold. Gold you can generally like, you can lease it out. Okay, so assume that you can lease out the gold. Lease out means I can give gold to someone else for 1 year, and on that I will earn lease. That is, I will let someone borrow it and on that I will earn these. So like say you have house, you give it to someone, and he uses, that person uses your house for 1 year, so he pays you lease. We can call it as a lease rent or rent. Okay, at the end it is lease only. So similar type of lease you have to assume in case of the commodity. So you can actually lend it. Say in our case, I will lend it for 1 year, I will lend my gold to for 1 year, and at the end when you want the settlement of the gold, when you want to long the gold, you want to buy the gold, at the time I will get my gold back, and then I will pass it on to you, right? Now see how the calculation is done here and what is the impact here. So this lease rate is earned, this is income. Because of this is reduced from the calculation. So S into 1 plus R to the power T divided by 1 plus lease rate to the power T. Okay. So this is the formula. I have to remember this. And second, if the lease rate is given in the continuously compounded rate, so this is assuming effective rate. Okay, if you assume the continuously compounded rate, then the formula will be S0 multiplied by e to the power R. R is point, sorry, R minus lease rate multiplied by T, like this. Okay, the formula is very simple. Now we'll take one illustration. Again, we will go with the same illustration. S0 is equal to 100, R is equal to 10%, U storage cost 20 paid in advance, then lease rate is 5% continuously compounded. That's why this is also continuously compounded. That's why, as in, not that's why. So I am assuming it is continuously compounded. And then time period is, here we will change the time period to 0.50. Okay, and let's do the calculation. So we'll start with the F is equal to S0, right? Now S0 is in the dollar terms. So S0, this is your S0, 100. Then you have the storage cost paid in the advance, that is in the beginning, in the start. You will add storage cost. Okay. Then e to the power. Now see, this is time period. There is mistake. There is mistake in this calculation. Just try to analyze this mistake. What is the mistake here? The mistake is, while doing this calculation, I use this formula properly. No problem with this. I use this properly. The problem is, when you are going with the forward and lease rate is involved, and then you are adjusting, or I'm adjusting it for the interest rate cost, and then interest rate is adjusted for the lease because it is income. Interest is expense, lease is income for the commodity holder. If I give impact, direct impact to both the values, that is 100 and storage cost, then this is not appropriate calculation. Why? Because on 20, on $20, I'm not getting any benefit of lease rate. The lease rate benefit is only applicable for this one. Now one more calculation problem is there. The calculation problem is, the illustration problem is, while writing down the illustration, I ignored it, completely ignored it. Actually, this should be written with the convenience yield, that is the next discussion. Now see here, if I give this particular commodity for lease, how will I incur the storage cost, right? Because it will be in someone else's possession. So if someone else is possessing it, he will pay the rent. I don't need to pay any rent. That's why this is one more mistake. Okay. So you cannot pay, you cannot have both the things at one time. We will have the same calculation. Okay. Similar type of illustration when we use the convenience yield. Okay. At CY. I will show you how. For lease calculation, ignore this particular part. You have to ignore it, and then ignore this as well. Okay, so 100 multiplied by e to the power 0.10 minus 0.05, that is yield. This is lease rate, and then this is your r minus lease rate multiplied by 0.5. So forward rate is equal to 102.53. This is your forward rate. Now, if the lease rate is mentioned in the dollar terms, then you have to go with this particular calculation. Like, things will change again. You have to interpret in the same manner. That is, like the storage cost, right? So lease paid in the start of the period, lease paid in the mid of the period, lease paid in the end of the period. So there are three possibilities: 1, 2, 3. Start, mid, end. So if the lease is paid in the start of the period, that is, you collect lease in the advance, then of course you will go with the S plus U0 and then time value of impact, right? Not S0, U0, S plus L. Okay. If it is paid in the mid, then you will calculate lease present value, S0 plus lease present value, and then you will impact it with the time. And if it is paid in the end, then S0 multiplied by time impact, then add lease. Do not add lease, it is reduced. Okay, so reduce, 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 reduce from all the calculation. Okay, so because I was explaining you the storage cost impact, I use the plus sign, but it is actually minus, minus, minus. Remember this. Lease is reduced, storage cost is added. Okay, so this is very simple. Now we can move to the next calculation. Next calculation is related to the convenience yield. Convenience yield is kind of favorite topic. We will mention it as CY for the sake of brevity. Okay. Now remember, what is convenience yield? Imagine my situation. So I'm holder of the commodity, and if I have say business, and the commodity is like, say I have um, iron ore processing plant, okay, and say commodity is iron ore as in the raw iron, and I have the plant which uses the iron ore, okay. By holding this commodity for 1 year, I can maintain my inventory properly, right? So this is giving me convenience. So imagine scenario like in mid of the year, I got sudden demand, so I can use this commodity in the my process, okay. So I will process it, I will sell it, and then I will buy back that particular commodity from somewhere else, and at the end I will deliver it to you, okay. So you will never know, but I will get the convenience. I will get the convenience by holding this particular commodity. So if this is possible, if this commodity can produce convenience, can give you the convenience, okay, and the owner of, or the holder of the commodity have some business, okay. So business like I have say processing plant. Because I have processing plant, I can use this commodity in my plant. That's why I'm getting the convenience. If both the situations are fulfilled, if both the conditions are fulfilled, convenience yield is applicable. In case if say commodity doesn't offer any convenience, then you don't you can't use it as a convenience, okay. You can't say it has a convenience yield. And second is, like, if the commodity holder does not have any backup business, okay, other aligned business, then he cannot get any convenience from it. So there are two possibilities. Okay, even if the one possibility is rejected, then I will not get any convenience yield. For any normal buyer, the convenience yield is not present, so convenience yield will not be adjusted. This for the theory perspective, for the theory question perspective. In exam, GAP will clearly provide you the convenience yield for this particular commodity, like this. Okay, so convenience yield calculation. Now, important discussion: convenience yield versus lease rate. So if I earn, remember, I earn convenience yield, I earn lease rate. I earn convenience yield by holding the commodity for time period. I earn lease rate by lending the commodity for the time period. Both are different. In one case, I lend it. In one case, in another case, I hold. Meaning, both cannot happen together. You cannot have lease rate and convenience yield both together. So even in question, you will have one at a time. Now our previous question is proper here. Okay, so this question was related to the convenience yield. So S0 is equal to $100. Storage cost, because this is convenience yield, I have to store the commodity with me. I will incur some storage cost, say $10. Convenience yield say 2%, and interest rate as usual 10%, both effective, and time period is 1 year. This is our calculation. So how to perform this calculation? Calculation is very easy. The formula is very simple. Formula is S0 plus U, because we have storage cost. Again we need adjustment, but we can go with this. S0 plus U. To simplify it, I am using this formula. S0 plus U and e to the power, in case of continuously compounded rate, here we have the effective rate multiplied by 1 plus R minus C, that is convenience yield, to the power T. Hundred plus 10, 1 plus 0.10 minus 0.02 to the power 1. Do the calculation. Answer is 118.8. Forward rate is equal to 118.8. Okay. Now, we can debate on the fact that we are taking storage cost and S0 plus storage cost, both, and then we are giving the impact of interest rate and then convenience yield. Okay, so how is this possible? So there are two possible ways. You can give impact this, you can use this $100 as a separate calculation. Okay, so you will give impact to $100 by this particular equation, which is 1 plus 0.10 minus 0.02. You will give the impact of convenience yield to only S0, and then you will give impact of only interest rate to storage cost. This calculation is proper, but remember, convenience yield is calculated, it is not like very visible thing. You cannot just see like this is convenience yield. Okay, so because we cannot see convenience yield just like that, it is not like adjusted for the storage cost and all. Okay, one more thing. For the understanding purpose, I directly went with the formula, which is 0.10 minus 0.02. You will get approximate answer with this formula, but you should use the right formula. The right formula is 100 plus storage cost multiplied by 1 plus R to the power T divided by 1 plus convenience yield, which is C, to the power t. Okay. So see, in this particular case, when we divide like this, so the assumption is these values already have some convenience yield in it. Okay, and that's why we give this type of impact. But if you give this impact, this is also fair, no problem with that. But as per like new formulas of given in the GARP book, so you have to go with this formula. So like see, this is not your FRM related discussion. I'm just adding the discussion so you should be able to like think, you should have the perspective of it. So if some commodity offers the convenience yield, okay, so there is added advantage to that commodity, meaning this particular convenience yield is already absorbed in the price, already captured by the price. If this particular convenience yield is captured in this price, then mathematically to make sure you are mathematically correct, you should divide to adjust the convenience yield. You should divide it by 1 plus c to the power t. Just same like your dividend yield. Okay, so because share prices reflects the dividend yield, that's why we have to divide it by the dividend yield. In same fashion, you have to divide it by the convenience yield. Now second assumption is that these prices are not, it is not reflecting the convenience yield. If you assume this, like the prices are not indicative of absorbed convenience yield, then you can go with the formula, this formula. With both the formulas, you will have slight variation, you will get minor change, but the right formula is this. Okay, and this problem is solved if you have both the rates mentioned in the continuously compounded rate, CC. Okay, so what happens here if the rates are mentioned in the continuously compounded rate? So simply S0 plus U multiplied by e to the power r minus y into t. So S0 plus U into e to the power 0.10 minus 0.02 and time period is 1. Then problem solved. Then you don't have to worry about divide it or just subtract it from the rate. It will give the same results. Okay. Then we have one extra discussion here, that is convenience yield and lease rate, and how convenience yield and lease rate creates a upper and lower bound for the forward prices. Okay, so I will go by the GARPS lines, okay, as it is mentioned in the GARPS lines. Okay, so okay, so now because lease rate and convenience yield cannot exist together, it gives us range. Okay, so how this range works? See, f0 is equal to, in ideal scenario, f0 is equal to s0 plus u 1 plus r divided by 1 plus y yield to the power t, right? This is the formula. Okay, but remember, this this convenience yield is not for everyone. Okay, not everyone can enjoy the convenience yield. Not everyone enjoys the convenience yield, and convenience yield is a reducing factor which reduces the forward price, right? So because convenience yield reduces the forward prices, and for some people the convenience yield, or some traders convenience yield does not exist at all. Some will be ready to charge, or some will charge forward rate, the forward rate slightly higher. So when you assume that it is not available for everyone, this income is not available for everyone, the person who is charging, say I don't have this convenience yield income, so I will not adjust this convenience yield in the equation. So the prices of forward can be higher or equal to, we get a new formula is the same formula but with a different sign, like forward prices can be greater than or equal to S0 plus U, then 1 plus R divided by 1 plus Y to the power T. Okay, you understood why it is, why forward prices can be higher? Because for some people, if I don't assume this in the calculation, this as in the yield as in calculation, then I will get forward rate which is greater than this. And then we know forward rate is equal to S0 plus U multiplied by 1 plus R to the power T. But for some people, traders, convenience yield exists, right? So this is normal formula without assuming any convenience yield. But because, say for me, the convenience yield exists. If the convenience yield exists for me, then what I will do? I will charge slightly lower rate. So F can be less than or equal to S0 plus U 1 plus R to the power T, like this. Okay. So this gives us the bound, upper bound and the lower bound. So you can mention the formula like, so F can be less than or equal to S0 plus U multiplied by 1 plus R to the power T, and next is S0 plus U multiplied by 1 plus R divided by 1 plus Y to the power T, like this. So this is your formula. Okay. So with the convenience yield, F can be greater than this, and without convenience yield, it can be less than this. Okay. So this is about the commodity forward and future pricing. This is not directly testable for, question, but remember it. Okay. So it is easy. It is better if you remember, but not highly testable, because this topic already have some important points. Okay, so we'll stop this discussion at this point, and then in next discussion we will discuss the arbitrage, the cash and carry arbitrage and the reverse cash and carry arbitrage. Okay, so make sure before you see the cash and carry and the arbitrage discussion, just make sure uh, you solve some questions on the forward rate. Okay, because it is good if you solve the questions now only. It will help you in getting better clarity in the question. Okay, so that's it. See you in the next part of the same chapter.